And now, it's The Law Show on CL 650, a comprehensive look at everything you need to know about the law.
I'm Zach Spencer. This is The Law Show on CL 650, breaking down this week relationships that can be difficult and confusing. We have Macquarie Hunter, LLP, representing clients with complex and emotional issues with family law. And joining us today, we have David Halkett. He's a partner at Macquarie Hunter, and Sarah Morse, an associate at Macquarie Hunter. Welcome to you both.
Thank you, Zach.
So this obviously is a very complex issue when you have a relationship that breaks down. It's very difficult, a lot of emotions, and you have to divide assets and moving forward. Now, the first question I have for you guys is, in the movies, usually the husband comes home and there's a box of his clothes outside the front door and the door is locked, or the locks have been changed. Can you do that?
Well, you certainly can. People have done that in some of my cases. They just change the locks. You have the right to go in the house. You can go to court and get a change, and sometimes you have a battle of the locksmiths.
So that does happen.
It does happen at times, yes.
All right. So, Sarah, when someone comes to your office, first of all, I understand you've got an amazing view.
Yes, that's always a really good icebreaker for us. We have an amazing view, and I think the reality is it does help calm people down and help them in terms of, oh, I'm in a nice space, and it's going to be a pleasant environment. And I think that's always really important when you're first meeting with a client, because family law is, just by the nature of what it is, it's incredibly emotional and probably one of the toughest things that someone can go through in life, other than a death in a family.
And you're located in Surrey Center, right?
We are. We're right in this in the Central City Tower, right above SFU.
And it's a beautiful complex.
It is. It's really nice.
And easy to get to. You're right on the Canada, not the Canada line, the
Expo line.
Expo line, that's right.
That's right.
So with your law firm, it's been around since when?
Well, the firm itself since 1967. There was a bunch of partners that joined up together in 1967. There were precursors that go back to the 1930s. We had presence in New Westminster, and then one in Sapperton for a bit, and then one in Surrey. And now all three offices combined in 2010 to move to the Central City Tower.
And people, I guess, come from all over. Is that right? Is it a destination law firm for what you specialize in?
I would think so. I think we have a fairly good presence out there. We're easily accessible to the Tri-Cities, Surrey, White Rock, Vancouver, New Westminster, Burnaby. So I think that the accessibility factor, I think, definitely is a good selling point for our firm.
And we're a full-service firm as well, so we have clients that come for our corporate department, commercial litigation, estates, and we're a regional firm, so we have clients from all over the Lower Mainland.
So you would be a firm that you would use through someone's life, maybe helping them with real estate and something else, and then unfortunately you get to the point where you're dividing those assets, right?
It can be, yeah, for sure. We've had long-term clients that have separated, and then we end up doing the divorce for them.
Well, we had another law firm here on the Law Show, and they were saying that, we a lot of people refer to us as their lawyer, even though we haven't seen them for 20 years.
Yep.
And that's obviously the case if you have a law firm that encompasses pretty much everything. You don't need them except for when you need them, and unfortunately with family law, it's when you're coming to the end of a relationship.
Exactly. So we have long-term clients that have been some of the founding partners and senior partners, been around for 30, 40 years, and they've been clients of the firm for that long. So.
All right. So when you have somebody come into your firm for, buying a house or something like that, that's one thing. When you have them coming in for an end of a relationship, the way you handle them has got to be quite different. So what do you do when someone comes into your office, and how do they typically react? I mean, they've got to get a load off their chest, first of all, and they want to tell somebody, and are you typically it?
Yeah, well, how we do it at our firm, there's three of us who do family law. There's Sarah, me, and another associate, Leah Donaldson. And we have a rotation for new clients that come in. So any cold calls will come in, and we rotate them through on a weekly basis. But any new client that comes in, whether it's a referral from an outside source or an inside source, if I'm meeting with them, they fill out a form that gives basic information, who they are, when they were married, how many children, and a brief description of their assets. I take them into the office. I'll talk about the nice view we have, if I have one of the nice boardrooms with the view, and try to calm them down. And then I'll say, okay, what brings you here today? And I know it's usually a breakdown of a relationship, but I'll say, what brings you here? And sometimes 5, 10, 15 minutes later, they've stopped talking.
Yeah.
And it's a very emotional time, right? Other than, as Sarah said earlier, the death in a family, the death of your relationship can be a very traumatic event. You know, you're losing potentially half your assets, time with your children, etc. So it's a very emotional. And so we try to calm them down by talking about, you know, for me personally, the weather or the view or what's been going on elsewhere in the world. And then after a couple of minutes, let them talk about their events.
Now, are most people relieved that they're finally at the end, or are they embarrassed that they're there at all? I guess you get the whole range, right?
I would say you definitely get the whole range, and there are certain clients you see that there are cultural aspects of it too, in terms of how that's seen in their culture, and that's always important to acknowledge.
A bit of shame in some cultures, right?
Absolutely. So you really have to understand where your client's coming from and understand their perspective. And I think part of our job is that it's very important to let the client know that it's okay if they're emotional and they're upset and they may shed a few tears, and we have to be okay with that, and we are. And I think that's part of our job, is to make them feel okay that they're sort of letting go of all of this that's maybe been bottled up for years.
And how do you condense maybe a 20-year relationship down to that first meeting? I mean, you could go on and on and on. So what do you say to them? Like, I need the Coles Notes kind of version of this?
Basically, yeah. So, you know, all relationships were good and bad. So they've only come in when it's bad. As I always tell people, I never see anyone who's happy. Yeah. You know, except a couple of odd adoptions I've done. So when they come in, it's like, okay, what was the history of your relationship? Who stayed at home? Who took care of the children? Who worked? What are their basic assets? And then I tell them what the basic issues are in the first meeting. They usually get about an hour for a flat rate that we charge in our department. And then if they want to proceed afterwards, then that's when you can get into more of the other history. But you'll get it's pretty much a Coles Notes version. It was a good term, Zach, in that we have to get through a lot of information in a short period of time.
Okay, I'm on the other side of the table. What should I be asking you? Should I obviously be interviewing somebody that's going to represent me for my future life? Like, what kind of things should a potential client ask somebody who's going to represent them for the breakup of relationship?
Yeah. Well, you can ask them their experience in an area. Like, I've been a lawyer now for 24 years and basically been doing family for 21 years of that. You can ask them what some ask us what our success rate is. That's always a hard one, right? Because successes can be defined in many different ways, right?
Because a lot of people think that it's always going to end up in court, and you can look at a ledger, wins and losses, but it often doesn't get there, right?
Yeah, 95% of our cases settle long before they get to trial.
You're right.
So what they should be asking is, how are you as a lawyer? Like, are you an aggressive type? Some want the aggressive lawyer until they see their bill,
right? Yeah.
Until they see their bills.
Yeah.
If they want someone who's going to get up and put stamp their feet in court and slam books down, that's not me. That's not going to be me. To me, they should ask how do you see this case resolving? What will you do to help me get through it? And it's up to us to be able to say, look, you can either mediation, you can go to court, you can do whatever, and just work their way through tell them what our plan is to get through the case.
Can you at the beginning, because I'm sure a lot of people say to you, what are my chances? How does this look? What am I going to get? And I guess you don't have a crystal ball, but you must have some yardsticks to go by, right?
Well, and I think that's part of what we do in the initial consult, and taking it through the file, is advising people what their options are,
and their expectations are.
Their expectations, whether they're realistic or not, what the law typically says in that situation, sort of telling them a little bit about, well, this might be excluded property, or this isn't, or this is what you might be on the hook for. It's giving a client a realistic idea of where their situation fits in all of that.
All right. Now, why family law? Lawyers start off in law school. You could be a real estate law, a criminal lawyer. There's so many different aspects of law. Why, for you, family law? What was it about this that attracted you?
Well, it was weird, Zach, when I look back. When I was in law school, the one area I did want to practice was family law.
That's always the case.
I think everyone says that.
It's all those people that say, my dad was a lawyer, I'm not going to be a lawyer, and then what happens? You end up being a lawyer. Yeah.
And because I went to UBC, and I started in 88, and I graduated in 91. And in those days, it was basically just the female students who went into family law. It was the joke at the time was the pink ghetto.
Oh, okay.
Female lawyers got pushed into family law. And I started off, I didn't want to do that. I thought I'd want to be a solicitor. And then
Which, and for people who don't know, is what? That's somebody that
more business law.
Business law. Okay.
Yeah, transactions.
So
that
one
kind
is
of stuff.
a solicitor is somebody that does the paperwork side of things,
Yeah.
and a barrister is somebody that goes to court, right?
Yeah,
Traditionally.
Traditionally, yeah. In Canada, we call it litigation and solicitors work.
Okay, yeah.
But I didn't think I'd want to do litigation. I didn't think I could talk. I didn't think I could stand up in court.
And here you are doing a radio show.
Exactly. It's amazing how it changes. So I was a relatively shy child, and that kind of stuff, right? So I went to court as an article student, where I articled, and I got yelled at the first time. I thought that was kind of cool, because I'm so used to watching American TV law where they never flub their words. They always know exactly what to say and have the great lines. Got to court and I realized other lawyers were flubbing what they were saying and such, right? And I thought it was kind of interesting.
They're real people.
Exactly. And then a couple of years after I was practicing, I found a job at a firm I liked, and it was in family law. And I found out I could do this area. I had the emotional ability to do it, because some people I know and some lawyers I know just can't do it because they get too emotionally tied into their clients. I can distance myself to some extent, so I end up being good at it, and it's where I've practiced for 20 years now.
Is there, I guess, part of the job is leaving it at the office, but
Yep.
Can you leave it at the office? Can people call you? Like, what's the line for you personally?
For me, I tend not to give them my cell numbers or anything like that.
Because there are office hours, right?
Exactly.
It's pretty broad.
Exactly. And even when I'm on holiday, my assistant knows how to reach me. But I put on the office, out of office on my email that I'm not there, and I don't have my email on my phone. I'm one of the old dinosaurs that doesn't do that.
Really?
I don't have my work email because I know I would just keep looking at it when I was away. And
It's self-protection there.
exactly. If I don't have the 2 or 3 weeks at a time in a holiday to clear out my mind, then I can't do the job when I get
Like
back.
I said, people have a lot of respect for that.
Yeah.
So when you're on the clock, you're on the clock, right?
Exactly. And although I had one client say to me, well, what if I need you when you're on holiday? I said, well, you were away for 3 weeks. I needed you. Right? And they were just away.
But you have someone at the office.
Oh, yeah.
to handle
There's
it.
Sarah. There's
Yeah.
Leah. There's our assistants who are more than capable of dealing with it.
Now,
right?
Sarah, why you family law? What do you think of this pink ghetto term?
Thank goodness I didn't hear that one back in the day when I started law school. But yeah, it was never something that I had thought I was going to do either. I had sort of started off in corporate commercial until I read my first share purchase agreement and couldn't.
You glazed over.
I literally glazed over, yeah. And then I realized that's probably not where I want to go. And I had actually started into doing some employment law and getting into litigation. And in law school, I did a little bit of criminal. And found actually the same as what David just mentioned. You get into court, and there is a different sort of aura there, and there is sometimes a sense of comfort. And for me, with my education, I started off with psychology, and I had really sort of battled between psychology.
It's a good marriage then for those things. Pardon the pun. Good marriage.
Yes, yes, one of the good marriages.
Yeah.
So I always liked that counseling aspect, and I've recently trained as a mediator. And for me, I really enjoy that emotional part of it, and I think that.
And can you switch it off?
Yeah, I mean, definitely there are cases that you certainly get more emotionally invested in, especially if it's close to home or similar to circumstances that you've gone through. But yeah, I also realize that that's their story. That's not my story, and you have to be able to leave it at home if you're going to be successful at managing the stress of your home life, your work life, and things like that. But I think that also makes us better lawyers because we are able to be somewhat emotionally invested, but able to know where the boundaries are.
Yeah, literally leave it behind
Exactly.
when you close the door there. We're talking about the breakdown of relationships. It's difficult and confusing. When we come back, we're going to get into what you should do with listing your assets and things when you go in to see your lawyer when you come to the end of a relationship. This is the Law Show on CL 650. We'll pick it up next.
There's more of the show still ahead. This is The Law Show on CL 650.